joining us this afternoon. This is our first online forum of the 2021-2022 season. I hope you all had a great summer and ready to kick off another exciting season with the VEF. Retail industry has been on quite a ride over the last 18 months. It's seen a lot of changes regarding the way that consumers shop, as well as the way companies manage their inventories, supply chains, and order fulfillment. Given the strong foundation of retail companies based locally here, we thought that would be a great topic for our first event of the year. To give an idea of who the VEF is, Vancouver Entrepreneurs Forum, Vancouver's premier networking forum for technology entrepreneurs. Since 1988, the VEF has been bringing together entrepreneurs and investors to create connections and explore innovative ideas and trends. We host 8 events per year starting in September, so this is the inaugural one for the season. My name is Scott Ellis. I sit on the VEF board and I'll be your MC for today. VEF is pleased to be able to provide free and discounted tickets during this time of social distancing, but we do thank those people who have generously paid to attend today's forum. VEF would not be possible without the contributions from our dedicated board members. As you can see, everyone listed here. Thank you everyone for dedicating their time, effort, connections, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis to make these events possible. Big thank you to our season presenting sponsor, Telus Ventures. And another big thank you to our event sponsor, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Salesforce Dreamforce is on today until Thursday of this week. It's completely free. You can register and view the agenda at salesforce.com/Dreamforce. And then thank you again to our ongoing VEF sponsors who help us all year to run these events, including CIBC, Corporate Recruiters, Douglas College, Fasken, Vantage Capital, and our newest sponsors, Silicon Valley Bank, and our media sponsor, Vancouver Tech Journal. VEF works with New Ventures BC to deliver our online events. New Ventures BC is also part of the BC Tech community. Please join them October 4th to find out the winners of their annual 250K tech startup competition. So another big thank you to New Ventures BC. So we kick off each event with a series of community announcements and lightning pitches. Each presenter is given 100 seconds to do their pitch. First up, we have a community announcement from Dave Thomas at Venture Labs. So Dave, I will pass it to you.
Great, thank you very much, Scott. I think we've got 2 slides just to sort of speak to. First one is it's a combination of Venture Labs and also Rocket Builders and IRAP. There are 2 programs for early stage or growth companies. First one is market validation for early stage companies that are looking at which markets they'll address. It starts Monday, October 18th, and there's an information session Tuesday, October the 5th at 11 a.m. Links and information to both of these events are available through venturelabs.ca. Second one is there's the go-to-market program that Rocket Builders has, actually, if you can go back a slide, just back to the first one, the go-to-market program that Rocket Builders has run with IRAP. It starts on Friday, October the 8th. The information session was earlier today. There is a recording available, and it's for growth companies that already have revenue in the range of 500,000 to 5 million in revenue, and are tech companies that work with IRAP. In order to sort of talk or sort of also indicate how this interrelates to some of the other things that are part of the ecosystem, if you go to the next slide. One of the things that we will have is on Monday of next week, Venture Labs is very pleased to have another one of the Garibaldi Capital Planning for Raising Capital workshops. This is a webinar that anybody can sign up for. Again, you can do so through the Venture Labs website. Also, we have on the 28th, HR 101 with a local consulting company called Blank Slate. Really pleased to move into some of the tech aspects of HR. And then Venture Labs will launch a new program on Tuesday, October the 19th, which is office hours with a whole number of different mentors and groups in the BC ecosystem who will have office hours with local tech companies that are interested in spending time talking to someone. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So on to the lightning pitch section. We have 300-second lightning pitches from entrepreneurs leading high potential early stage tech companies. Up first, we have René Gauthier from Ecologyst. So René, I will pass it over to you. René, can you hear me? René, I don't think we can hear you.
Hey, can you hear me now?
We can now. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, great. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, hi, René from Ecologyst, founder of the company. I've clicked the button, but might have to say next, Scott. So yeah, unlike most clothing companies, we actually make clothing. Next, the fashion industry is broken and unsustainable. And unlike most legacy industries, it's yet to be disrupted. Most of the problems stem from a broken supply chain. Next. On the left, this is a standard supply chain, 18 to 24 month cycles, tens of thousands of kilometers traveled. Clothing industry carbon footprint is larger than the combo of air travel and sea travel combined. Most clothing is made out of plastic, AKA oil. On the right, that's us. We go from natural materials to us to the customer, simple. 3 month cycles, 0 kilometers to the warehouse traveled, a fraction of the carbon footprint, 0% plastic, 100% natural fibers. Next. So you've heard of D2C. Well, this is the real D2C, manufacturer to the consumer. Next. We're bringing this model to an enormous industry, expected to reach 2.3 trillion by 2025. And our segment is leading the growth within the clothing industry. Next. In last fiscal year, we had COVID adjusted revenues of 2.5 mil. 97% of our products sell at full retail price. Our net promoter score is 87. Year-on-year growth of e-commerce was 131%. Next. And we're serious about bringing Ecologyst across North America. So we've partnered with Canaccord to take the company public, and we'll be doing a pre-IPO private placement this fall. Next. Thanks.
That was great. Thank you, René. Next, we have Sang Lee and Arielle Locke from Peko Produce.
So, Arielle, are you here?
I'm here.
Awesome. Started. Ready when you are.
Did you want to take remote control? Just give me 1 second. I'm just gonna request. Okay. Saying you can start whenever.
Okay. Hi there. My name is Sang,
And my name is Arielle.
and we're the co-founders of Peko. At the beginning of this year, we noticed the amount of household food waste that we generate and decided to do something about it. Upon more research, we learned that in Canada, $3 billion worth of produce is rejected every year because they're slightly bruised or oddly shaped.
Meanwhile, Canada is facing the largest increase in food costs since 2010.
Knowing this, our mission is to reduce food waste and empower access to affordable, healthy food.
Sorry, it's like kind of glitching out. It's okay, I remember it by heart. Introducing Peko Produce. We're a online and sorry. Introducing Peko Produce. We take imperfect and excess harvest and we're able to deliver it straight to consumers. With Peko, you're able to save 40% on your groceries and also reduce your impact on the climate crisis. We currently operate in a very strict 24-hour schedule, so everything's very strict and very fresh.
Here's what our customers are saying. Most of them are very supportive and encouraging. Next.
Yeah, it's just not clicking. We sell every box for $25 and they're over 10 pounds each. Since May 31st, when we first launched, we've sold over 1,200 boxes, rescued over 6,000 pounds of food, and have over 26,000 in revenue.
We stand out using our distribution strategy, low price, and fun brand identity. Our future roadmap includes becoming the leading online grocer for all things imperfect. Specifically, we're looking into the niche of upcycled and other sustainable products.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on our journey to reduce food waste and promote access to affordable, healthy food for all Canadians. Sorry for all the tech difficulties.
No problem. Oh, that was great. Thank you very much, ladies. I'm going to pass it over to Valli now from Plente. Plenty. Valli, are you there? We cannot hear you.
There you go.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. I'm Valli. We are Plenty Hard Kombucha, and we make the best tasting hard kombucha. What is kombucha? For the ones that don't know, it's a fermented probiotic tea that is good for your digestive health. So we launched in May of 2021, and we are in 140 liquor stores and restaurants across BC. And we're also the only hard kombucha on tap. Plenty is, sorry, I'm having tech difficulties too. There you go. Plenty is handcrafted here in Vancouver. It's 1 gram sugar, 1 gram carb, 99 calories, and we're gluten-free. We use all real organic ingredients that make our beverage taste great, and it's wildly refreshing. We also use an artisanal brewing process to naturally ferment our alcohol to 5%. We don't add any vodkas. We have 2 flavors, and people love our drink. We have grapefruit, hibiscus, and mango, pineapple, coconut. Both flavors are perfectly balanced. They're smooth and clean on the palate because we use real fruits and botanicals. We're capitalizing on 2 major market trends driven by the health-conscious consumer. There's a huge demand for better-for-you alcohol beverages, and also the rapidly growing kombucha market. The market size is quite huge. The total alcohol sales in the US and Canada in 2020 was 290 billion, and the kombucha sale for the same time was 1.7 billion. This is our team. Myself, the founder, Jamie Curvin, the co-founder, she's here. Weston's our sales manager, and we have a great panel of advisors. We're raising funds to expand into a larger brewing facility. Please contact me, and please try our great tasting drink. Store locations are found on our website and on our Instagram. Thank you guys for your time.
Okay, thank you, Valli. That's great. I have definitely enjoyed a few of those beverages this summer. So next up, we have a new section that we're using, or we're doing this event. It's where are they now? So take a company that once was a lightning pitcher, and a few years have passed. They've grown. We want to kind of check in again and see how their journey's been going. So we have Zack and Christa from Stoko with us today. They did a lightning pitch at a previous event, and yeah, like I said, I thought it'd be great to check in with them and see how things are going lately, or since then. So I'll pass it over to Zack and Christa to tell your story.
Thanks, Scott. You guys able to hear us okay?
Sure can.
So you might actually know our company as with a different name. We were previously known as Embrace Orthopedics, which I imagine would have been when we last presented at VEF. But we've since rebranded to Stoko. And when we started our organization, we had the goal of creating the best knee brace in the world. So around Vancouver, we were known as the knee brace guys for quite a long time. And we quickly learned that that's actually not what our athletes were looking for. And in fact, recognized a much larger opportunity to create an entirely new retail category, one that we call supportive apparel. And since then, we've gone on to launch 2 products. The K1 and the K1 Breathe, as pictured in this slide here. And they offer an entirely new method of joint support, one that's more anatomically correct and incredibly more comfortable for athletes in a variety of sports. And it's used across North America, from weekend warriors to professional athletes, Olympians, you name it. So for those of you who aren't familiar, our product essentially recreates the body's musculature and ligaments by using high strength cables run throughout a pretty traditional athletic tight. In essence, recreating your body's natural support structures and allowing you to have full control over them through 2 dials in the waistband. So to commercialize our technology and launch our brand and product, we went on and had to build a team around what was originally just an R&D house. So we raised approximately $10 million over the last 3 years. We've brought on 30 amazing people like Christa here, and we've learned a whole heck of a lot. So I was asked by Carrie to share a few insights from what we've learned along the way. I've got 4 here. So number one, for those who are building organizations, building a strong corporate culture has really been our secret weapon. It's something we've invested a lot of time into, and it's paid dividends basically ever since we started. We like to embrace discomfort. So we spend a lot of time talking about where we should go next and how we can step outside of our comfort zone and embrace the unknown and pull that into our day-to-day. We're really open to the evolution of our company. I know as a founder, it's super easy to spend a lot of time thinking about all the things that we've done to get us here, but it's important to remember that those things don't always get us there. And finally, hire the right people. We're on this journey together. At Stoko, we used to refer to ourselves as a family. Now we're very goal-oriented, and we think of ourselves more as a team. But it really all comes down to the people, no matter how you look at it. And this is where one of the main reasons that we started, or one of the main things that we started doing after we had raised our first substantial round of capital, was looking to experience that we didn't have on the team. And I'm an engineer by training, and this is where we started to look to more seasoned hands. And Christa has almost 20 years of experience in retail and apparel specifically. And so I'm going to let her speak to the creation of our brand and ultimately where we see ourselves going in our athletes' eyes.
Pleasure to be here. Okay, so I'll start out with underscoring something that Zack shared off the top, which is that from a brand and marketing, community, and sales perspective, at Stoko, we really have our work cut out for us because, as he mentioned, we're creating a category that has never existed before. So for quite some time, we thought of ourselves as a new and different, better knee brace. And what we've really come to realize over recent weeks and months is that we have an opportunity to really start from scratch and create a brand new category that's not existed. And so one of the top priorities that we have from a brand building perspective is around the product education that we create and the positioning of our product as something new and different that has never existed before. So we've got a lot of focus around our website and through all of our channels on really defining the category that we're creating, the problems that we're solving, and highlighting how the K1 and our category of supportive apparel can support athletes of all different levels. So that's priority number one that we've been working on. Number two, we've been building and scaling our ambassador program. So we work with approximately 20 elite and competitive athletes in a number of different disciplines. And our focus here is to build win-win relationships with them that can help us get the word out about our brand and create word-of-mouth referrals and also inform product feedback to help us elevate and refine our products moving forward. And then third and last, but certainly not least, we have a big business to business, which we refer to as strategic sales effort underway. And through our strategic sales program, we work to identify and partner with the right wholesale partners in clinical capacity, clinical and rehab capacities, as well as specialty retailers. So wholesale being a big part of it. We also work with the athletic teams and different types of influential and expert groups through our Pro Deals program. And then we have an affiliate model as well, where we work with industry pros and experts that help us create credibility and provide testimonials and make recommendations of the product through the types of practices and places that they work and show up. So that's what we're up to. Some key highlights around building the brand and building win-win relationships and an authentic community that's helping to advocate for us and spread the word. We wanted to extend an invite to visit us. If you'd like to learn more, you can find us at stokodesign.com. You can also reach out to us with an email to hello@stokodesign.com if you're curious, if you'd like to connect with Zack or I or anyone from our team to learn more. And then last but not least, and I'm not sure who's controlling, but if you can flip to the next slide, we wanted to extend a special offer for this group. Zack's offering up his personal friends and family promo code. So if you know anybody who could benefit from supportive apparel, an entire low body support system that is as comfortable and functional as your favorite pair of athletic tights, please take us up on this offer. It's a promo code for 20% off your order, and we've made that valid until the end of this week. So Sunday night around midnight.
Great. Thank you, Zack and Christa. Congrats on all your success and best of luck to you guys as you continue to grow and build out this new product category.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
So
Sure,
just a reminder before we jump into the actual panel discussion to keep the conversation going on social media. This is where you can find us online. Reach out anytime. We do monitor these and we love to get some good discussions going on our social channels. So now let's start the panel, Future of Retail. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator for the event, James Basnett. James is CEO of Shape, a company that builds AR and 3D NFT technology for brands and retailers. Prior to Shape, James is the Chief Strategy Officer at Momentus, a retail innovation lab acquired by Cognizant Soft Vision. His teams have launched projects including Lululemon's Retail Smart Mirror, Coca-Cola's AR menus, as well as apps for Macy's, Kohl's, and Groupon. So I'll pass it over to you, James, and you can introduce our panel and kick it off.
Sounds great, Scott. Thank you for having me today. I want to thank Scott, Katarina, Liz, and the rest of the VEF team for all the time and effort that they put in here today. Our lightning pitches, I think, speak to the quality of talent and hard work that is going on in Vancouver today. And, the more that we can do to make sure that we're supporting some of our new talented companies in this time of COVID is important. So please make sure that you're going out there to support each one of them. And Stoko's looking wonderful. Today, we have a really, really heavyweight retail and e-commerce panel that has been put together. Some of the leaders that have helped define these technologies and these firms in Vancouver to lead us forward, we have today together. So we'll start with Igor Faletski, who is the VP of Product Management at Salesforce. He is also the co-founder and CEO of Mobify, Vancouver's darling Mobify. He scaled Mobify from a Vancouver startup to a global leader in mobile and composable commerce, leading to the Salesforce acquisition last year. His passion is making digital commerce simpler, faster, and truly personal for brands and developers all around the world. Next heavyweight we have in the ring is Ian MacKinnon. Ian is the founder and CTO at WithLater.com. One of the firms that's really driving some of SaaS forward in the city, and really proud of everything that's going on at WithLater. Thank you, Ian, for showing us the way in so many of these important new channels. Founded in 2014, WithLater was started at a hackathon and has grown to become the leading marketing platform for Instagram, with over 5 million of the world's top brands and agencies as clients, including YouTube, NBC News, The Wall Street Journal, Rolling Stone, and the Financial Times. At WithLater, Ian is responsible for leading the engineering team and software development, as well as spearheading its machine learning and data science initiatives. Ian holds a master's in comp sci from the University of Waterloo, which is probably the place you want to get a computer science degree from in Canada these days. Thank you for joining us, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
And our third heavyweight, coming to us from Cymax, is Rizwan Somji. We're going to call him Riz here. Riz joined Cymax in 2015 as the head of technology and was appointed CEO in 2019. His leadership has guided the company through a period of rapid growth and pivotal award-winning digital transformation across all brands, including Freight Club and Channelgate. Riz participates in several advisory boards, fundraising groups, and mentorship programs. As a volunteer coach of the Shaheen Football Club for over 20 years, he believes that social responsibility is critical to both corporate and personal growth. In 2020, Riz was awarded the distinction of Business Person of the Year by the Burnaby Board of Trade, and most recently, EY Entrepreneur of the Year 2021 Pacific winner. Igor, Ian, and Riz, thank you for coming together here, and I'm excited for this conversation. You know, we all get stuck in our day-to-day work and leading our teams, and it's nice to have this opportunity to zoom out for a second, jump on Zoom, and have an interesting conversation about what's going on in this world today. So here we are, 2021. It feels like 10 years has passed since March 2020. Certainly from an impact on the technology side and the business side and the trend side of retail and e-commerce, we've seen that level of transformation. And in that comes a tremendous amount of opportunity, especially for Canadian technology companies. So as we look here today, as we're heading into Q4 2021, where nobody really could have imagined this level of change, we have some exciting things in front of us. Igor, I know that you're the data man. You're sitting there at Salesforce. You're really able to see the way the whole world is transforming around our e-commerce platforms. And I'm wondering if there are any trends or any specific data points in retail or e-commerce that you're looking at today that you think are really worth noting, really worth discussing.
Sure, thanks, James. Well, I think it's been a crazy story of growth for e-commerce globally the last 18 months. I feel like when COVID hit, everything stopped for a day. The next day, huge flood of traffic hit all e-commerce sites. People switched their shopping to online. I think plans that many brands had for e-commerce for 5 years had to be compressed to like 1 to 2 years, and it's still continuing. And we're seeing a lot of amazing stats. Like, for example, over the last 12 months, 60% more goods have been sold in Latin America online than before. So even regions that were perhaps still retail first got pulled into the future of e-commerce really quickly. We're seeing new categories of products go online, like automotive or telco or healthcare, where typically you didn't have a big e-commerce presence. Now it's quickly shifting to be online first. And we're seeing shoppers go to new channels too. So also in the last 12 months, over 100% growth from social shopping channels like Instagram and TikTok, driving traffic to e-commerce sites. So it's been a really big shift industry-wide. One number that I think about a lot is actually from China, where we've seen over $200 billion of revenue in live video shopping come in the last 12 months. So the shift in e-commerce from kind of the old school web to apps to social to new media is underway. I think we'll be here 5 years from now and look at 2021 and say, hey, that was stone age of e-commerce in the Western world. So I think it's very much early days, and it's exciting to see just how much innovation and urgency all brands now have thanks to the new environment.
Wonderful. Now, I love taking a look at what's happening with Asian video commerce. We know that a lot of what happens in technology is happening in Asia first. We start to pick that up a little bit later, whether it's some of the things we've seen in WeChat, some of the things we've seen around QR codes. And so it's important for us to pay attention to those trends. Ian, when you take a look at the market today, especially around social media and some of the wonderful things that are happening at Later, what data point or trend are you most interested in or excited about?
I would say also it's this switch over to social commerce. We're estimating this to be worth like 600 billion by 2027. I think this just really goes to how products are discovered. We talk about the future of retail, but when you think about brick and mortar retail, that's just not how people discover new products anymore. That's just not, it's never I'm walking through casually. All too often I get influenced. One of the things that we're kind of seeing through our people and our users is that they're also moving a huge amount into influencer marketing. We were polling our users and something like 95% of them have some interest in, and about half of them had already tried some influencer campaigns on their own. We do see this to be a huge area that is actually starting to happen. just because how else do you discover, what's new and exciting, but through social channels, and that's how you get marketed to nowadays. And people are having less trusted brands. A whopping 48% of consumers don't trust brand marketing, nor should they. It's not like they're getting it from an unbiased source, but if you can convince a few good influencers to really get behind your brand, I think that's where we're going to see the future of social commerce.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ian. Rizwan, I think about what René was presenting earlier within our lightning pitches around Ecologyst and MDTC, manufacturer direct to consumer. We've got new capabilities around changing how we're getting our products into the hands of consumers. I'm wondering, as you look at Cymax and what you've seen happen over the last 18 months, what's the data point or the trend that you think is the most interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen tremendous growth as many others have because of COVID. I mean, it's really changed the paradigm in terms of the buyer. Ultimately, the consumers require more convenience, immediacy, and simplicity. And with that comes that expectation of 1 day, 2 day delivery. We focus mainly on furniture and the big and bulky. And when I first thought about selling furniture online, I wondered who would be buying that sort of big and bulky item that's going to be impossible to return or even get delivered. But it's really shown us over the last 18 months that the demand is there. The buying behaviors, shopping behaviors have all changed, and in order to succeed, you're going to need to provide that capability. So it's putting pressure on first mile, middle mile, last mile. More specifically for us, we focus on last mile. We recognized as a third-party drop shipper that there was a huge demand and a huge gap in the market where a lot of our vendors that were selling product didn't have that option to even participate and get these big and bulky items to their customers at the end of the day. And that's when we kind of spun out our Freight Club solution. We like to describe that as our kayak for freight. So it provides, you go in there, you ultimately provide a pickup location, destination, and you get the rates back, and you can kind of pick your first class, which is, your curbside or your room of choice or whatever. And being able to provide that optionality to anyone and any company, small or large, is actually quite critical. We know selling on Amazon and Walmart and eBay and those types of stores, marketplaces, that getting the Prime badge equivalent on Amazon, for example, definitely is going to get your sales to go through the roof. And by doing so, you're actually putting more pressure on vendors and companies like ourselves to be able to set up the infrastructure and the network to be able to support that. So we're going to continue to see a big evolution, a big change in last mile. I think there's going to be more and more challenges before it gets better. Capacity issues with the large providers like FedEx and UPS. They've never seen this kind of surge, let alone for the big and bulky, but for anything. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of change in terms of technology, capabilities, and ultimately how we're delivering product throughout the world, ultimately.
Sounds great. What would you say are the top categories within the Cymax world? Furniture's up there?
Yeah, furniture, home decor. We do commercial and residential as well. So, our catalog's over 400,000 products. So we're not, a typical what you would describe a D2C. We really are a third-party drop shipper. So we do get to see lots of subcategories, bunk beds all the way through to gazebos, outdoor gazebos, and we're seeing a real shift in the way that houses are being furnished. Every square inch of the house is being repurposed today. Work from home has really kind of changed things. That corner little shed in the back of your house, well, that's turning into a jacuzzi area or a spa or a bar or whatever it may be, an outdoor bar. So the couch that looked really nice, well, you're replacing that with something you're going to sit your butt on for 8 hours a day now because you're sitting at home. So we're really seeing a shift in, resi commercial kind of office space as well. So as people are setting up their homes now, it's not a desk or just a cheap, not kind of ready to assemble kind of knockdown furniture type of IKEA, $50 table, you're actually investing hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in your home setup now. So we're going to continue to see those changes happen. I think it's quite exciting.
Great. I think when we look at the way that Cymax is structured and other companies that are helping, on last mile and really kind of reinvigorating the way that we get products to consumers, on the front end of that experience is what's happening, I think, a lot at WithLater and what Ian and his team are working on. Ian, when you think of people interacting with brands, maybe there's drop shipping happening behind them. But when we look at that experience from a consumer perspective, are we going towards our influencers first before Google? Are we seeing that shift? And is it something that the consumer wants, or is it just a byproduct of where their attention is?
I think the nice thing about social is that you can kind of get marketed to, and it is your interest graph. TikTok, Instagram, they all know I'm a 30-year-old or 39-year-old married guy with a little one, and they can target where they're going to advertise to me that way. You can get pretty interesting targeting in the same way that you could with Google, but Google's never been a visual medium. It's always very nice when I see a product rather than looking for something with intent. If I'm looking with something for intent, Google's always going to be number one, although one could argue more people are looking at products by going to Amazon and searching for them rather than Google. So I think that's going to be an interesting where people are going to be looking for things they know. But I've impulse bought way more things off of TikTok than any other platform by far. It knows enough to show me crazy stuff I would never think of buying on Amazon. And then I'll be like, oh, I'll impulse buy that. I like to think I was beyond getting influenced to a certain degree, but then TikTok came around and proved me that I was very much wrong. So the key thing is that these have your interest graphs, which might be more important than whenever I'm searching for things, because sometimes I'm searching for things and I know exactly what I want. Other times I just have disposable income because I'm not allowed to travel and I'm gonna buy some crazy thing for my kid I saw off of TikTok.
Okay. Well, let's come back to the boxing match. It's 12 months from now. Who's going to win in social commerce, TikTok or Instagram, and why?
I think TikTok, if businesses can figure out how to market on it, because it's a very different beast than Instagram. Instagram has launched, put out a lot of tools for, like, they know where the puck is going. They're all going to be competing on the social commerce. They want the purchasing to happen within the actual app. That's why you have the shopping tab where you used to have the create content tab on Instagram, which took some getting used to, but it tells you, they are telling you front and center what they are focused on. What we're finding from our users is they're not actually big fans of putting their content in there. There's a lot of UX problems. A lot of them are already on Shopify. Something close to 40% of our users who have e-commerce, any kind of e-commerce present, have it on Shopify. It's a magnitude higher than the next one. So as much as we're talking about Amazon and Shopify, I think a lot of retailers are also cognizant of the idea of giving up my users to some company. The last person someone wants is Jeff Bezos, or I guess Andy Jassy now, or Mark Zuckerberg, between them and their commerce, or like, in that transaction between there and their consumer, which is great when you can have Tobias instead, nice Canadian boy rather than those two. But a lot of our users don't like Facebook as an e-commerce platform. They don't like giving up more control to Mark Zuckerberg. And a lot of them just have UX issues. Like Shopify is never meant to be an e-commerce company and they're having to pivot to it. Whereas I think TikTok kind of gets to have the second mouse effect where they can kind of go see where Instagram did wrong, but it's just such a different beast. So I think TikTok has a job of figuring out how to integrate it, and they're both going to the same place. Long enough period of time, I'd say TikTok, just because of the curve they're on and where you kind of see the young consumers going, they have that in their favor, where everything in Instagram is starting to feel a bit pay for play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that we're going to have to dance to the Renegade on some sectionals if we want to sell those on TikTok. That's the only way we're going to get couch retail.
Good luck, Riz.
I want to take a look at the time here. We're at about 4:40. We're going to run the panel till about 5:15. So we got about 35 minutes here. I want to just ask anybody who is attending, if you have questions, to put them in the chat window. You can direct them at anyone specifically or the general group. And what we'll do is start to pull them out as a team and make sure that we're getting to those questions. So if you have anything, let's drop it in there. I love looking at the Instagram and TikTok battle because it really comes down to these as channels. When we organize them from a retail and e-commerce standpoint, you can lump them together, right? They're sitting in your social channels, but they are starting to mean so much, and they're starting to go ahead and try to grab a lot of the funnel. So are they going to continue to live as just social channels, or are they starting to crawl out of that box? I think is a very important question. Igor, I know that where you're sitting today, at the helm of a lot of e-commerce product within the Salesforce universe, which is really a good chunk of the internet. What are you seeing around this kind of channel hopping and the evolution of our social channels within the broader mix?
Sure. I think today, definitely both the web and social channels are equally important or important for different parts of the shopping journey. You probably do more learning and discovery on social. You may actually go to Google or Amazon to convert as your final step of that transaction. But that weight, I think, is going to be shifting over time towards more and more of the social channel itself, because if you can put a buy button on TikTok, at some point, it's going to be really easy for consumers to make the purchase right there. And it's more and more easy to do that from a tech standpoint as well. So I think every platform vendor in the space is trying to figure out what it's going to mean for their offering, their product, and how to make sure that they have a great story to support those social channels. But today, I would say there's still something that's very comfortable about having a website that brands really appreciate, because they control it end to end. They know how to operate it, they know how to evolve it. So there's still investment in making the web better, faster, more app-like. That's not going to go away. But I think in 10 years, that may change. At the same time, I think on the web, things don't really die. We just have like more additive things for new, younger groups of consumers that come online and do things their way. So I think it's going to be more of a case of and than just like social being the only way to shop 10 years from now.
When Mark Zuckerberg was talking to The Verge a couple of weeks ago, he mentioned that, and I think that they really started to even focus on calling Facebook and its child companies, including Instagram, is a metaverse company now. They're no longer, this is a social media company, it's a metaverse company. Now, metaverse is a nebulous term in a lot of ways. We still don't know what it means. Is it game companies? Is it virtual worlds? And when we look at Instagram as this very important channel for e-commerce, and we start to think about its position in the metaverse, are we thinking that we're going to see more and more virtualized e-commerce experiences in the future, like augmented reality? Are we going to drop the couch in our living room? Am I going to see the influencer that I love sitting on that couch in augmented reality in my living room? And is this what's going to drive some commerce moving forward? Are you seeing virtual worlds and virtual buying experiences like augmented reality start to hit the channels that you guys are focusing on?
Yes, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Maybe you've seen the story about the new Facebook glasses. I guess Ray-Ban Stories is the name launching. And I saw the video review. I'm surprised just like how well it's executed, right? They seem to be working much better than the Google Lens that existed a few years ago. So it's easier and easier for consumers to have different devices that help them create this kind of omnichannel digital content and hopefully experience more and more AR and VR over time. And on the software side, we're definitely seeing amazing startups that are bringing in different parts of the retail experience that are actually valuable to the digital first world. So we see startups that help brands create like replicas of their retail stores, but fully 3D. So you can go there through our website and change it up, every week if you want to new decor. So you can have a live checkout of real world items in the virtual store. And people like it. And some real big brands are betting on it because there's a cohort of users that really enjoy going to the store, even if they're sitting in their chair, right? So that's happening. And then there's also the customer service aspect. where the clienteling in these amazing kind of high-end stores is still quite valuable. And more of that is moving to a messaging first approach. You can have the same people that were welcoming you in the store and helping you out can now help you through iMessage and help you pick items that you want. So I guess the retail experience, so to speak, is being unbundled into different parts that work, and those parts are going digital, and they'll absolutely come into AR and VR and your phone as well. And I've been a mobile phone guy for a couple of decades, and I definitely believe it's not the end for personal computing. The idea of looking at like a screen all day and holding that battery in your hand, I think it's also going to be archaic in 20 years from now. So I'm excited to see what's next.
Wonderful. I see that William Johnson, Vancouver tech celebrity from the Vancouver Tech Journals, joined us. William, thanks. It's a pleasure to have you in the crowd today. Riz, when you look at this idea of virtual worlds, virtual buying and shopping experiences, do you get excited about that? Does that provide new opportunity to Cymax and some of the other companies that we might see in retail and e-commerce today in Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is absolutely. For Cymax Group, a lot of our revenue is selling off of marketplaces. So we're actually relying on the Amazons, the Walmarts, and the eBays to generate that funnel for us. And once they get to their site, we know that the consumer has an intent to buy. So it makes our life a lot easier selling through the marketplaces. However, we do have 2 website assets with Cymax.com and Homesquare.com, where it is a third-party drop shipping website. And that's where content really is king. I think that still applies to the marketplaces as well. And the experience that you're giving to those consumers as they're continuing to look at the product that you want them to convert on. I think, I saw a stat the other day, it was like 120,000 stores by 2025, I think it was, no, 2022, over 120,000 stores are going to be using augmented reality as part of their customer experience. I think that's pretty crazy when you think about physical stores. So to what Igor was saying a bit earlier, it's absolutely converging. What that experience is going to be like, we're still things to figure out there, but it definitely is going to provide a stronger experience and help with that conversion, because that's ultimately what we're looking to do. So if you're investing, it has to equate to something. There needs to be an ROI. I think that's where things are going. Absolutely. I think it's gone a little slower than we anticipated. I think a few years ago, everyone was jumping on the virtual reality and augmented reality bandwagon, and I think it's needed to take a pause and collect itself together. But we're definitely seeing in our space specifically, the 3D renderings, kind of plan your own space out with augmented reality. These tools are becoming stronger and stronger plays. So you can look at the couch and see what it would look like in your room before you actually purchase it. So I think those are all very, very promising opportunities that are coming. And, as Igor said, I'd like to see where that goes in a couple of years from now.
Yeah, we're seeing tremendous disruption, and with that comes a lot of opportunity, especially for the rich technology community that we have in Vancouver today. We are one of the world's leaders, probably the second largest hub of AR/VR companies, and so there's a lot of that type of work. We're even doing that at Shape, helping companies virtualize their product images and build virtual shopping experiences across channels. So it's a really great time to be a Vancouver entrepreneur. The government is behind us, it's printing money. Make sure that we're using some of that wind behind our sails to go ahead and conquer. Ian, when you got involved with WithLater and what you were looking at as an opportunity to help make it easier to run a brand or to run your editorial calendar on Instagram, did you picture this level of e-commerce and retail being integrated into a lot of our social imagery? And when you look at the mix today, is that driving a lot of the opportunities at Later?
I would say we absolutely saw that this is where things were going to be going, not through any personal experience of mine. For us, it was just at the time, Instagram didn't have any kind of connectivity to automatically publish, so we made a little hack around for it. We always knew we were initially giving a band-aid solution to a bigger problem, but we knew the writing was on the wall back in 2013 because one of our co-founders his brother at the time was dating a brand manager for a clothing company I won't name, that does have local offices. But what we found in 2013 is that the company was using their Instagram feed as a catalog. Like, for anyone younger on the call, a catalog is this thing that people would ship to you with all their products in it on dead trees. And it became pretty easy to make your catalog just your Instagram feed. So in 2013, you could absolutely see this. You knew it was going to be going there. And obviously we're moving forward with all this. We have Shopify integrations. We keep looking at the others, because we know that this is how people want to do the impulse purchase. Like I said, I've impulse purchased more things off of TikTok, and I've made it through the harsh transition of having to alt tab over to Amazon in order to order something. But as soon as they make it a little bit easier, I just wish Facebook would make it easier for the distributor end to get all their content and all their things, and they can sync with Shopify. But our UX people are showing that if you go through what Facebook has, it's not clearly, that's not what their forte is, and it's leaving an opportunity for other people to fill that void when it comes to social commerce. There's also something to be said about how, I mean, as much as TikTok with its interesting ownership and then Mark Zuckerberg, it's kind of like pick your poison, but sometimes just at least having both prevents any kind of hegemony from either or. So I am kind of hoping that we kind of see social commerce divest among many platforms and not just one or two.
Got it. It's really exciting to see what you're doing at Later, how you're building the team out. I think that Later has been essential for helping a lot of direct-to-consumer companies and new social commerce brands launch in the city and in the province of British Columbia. I think the work that you're doing is really important for helping lift our groups up. In a similar vein, what we saw happen with Mobify, I think, taught a lot of the city about how to build a tech company and the opportunities for being able to take a dream and a trend and start putting some code together, and take that next step of joining forces with Salesforce, which really is integral to a lot of how business runs today. So Igor, when you take a look at Later and some of the wonderful things happening there, and you take a look at Mobify, do you see some interesting trends around what's happening with Vancouver and BC-based technology companies that you think that we should all be leaning into?
Definitely. First of all, I'm super impressed with Later and Cymax and all the startups on the call today. I think when we started Mobify with John, my co-founder, in 2007, there were, I think, 2 or 3 startups that were starting in a year or a year later, like Unbounce, Hootsuite. But generally, it wasn't a thing to do, to go and start a company. It was not obvious at all how to get funding, how to expand to different markets, how to learn about like accounting or SaaS. And now there's so much more help available, I think, and so many resources and so many examples of amazing entrepreneurs that have done it, that I think more and more people in Vancouver and Canada are looking at that as a, maybe not a default option, but one of the options to steer their career in that direction. So I think it's great. Definitely, I think all startups are still hard. The highs are high, the lows are low. We all know that, but it's also just super exciting to be at the table and invent the future in some way. And for us at Mobify, we've been around for almost 14 years before we got acquired by Salesforce, and that meant like 4 different generations of product, reinventing ourselves multiple times, partnering with Salesforce, and then when COVID hit, it became obvious that it's a great fit for us to be one company and one product. But it's not a straight line, and I think we should know that when we start our next company, and for the entrepreneurs here, that it's a journey, but it's a very rewarding journey that I think is worth betting on.
I love that advice. Maybe here's a tough question for you, Igor. When you go through an acquisition, there's a tremendous amount that we learn, and there's a tremendous amount that we couldn't have predicted. Hindsight is 2020. When you look at what you were building with Mobify and now being a part of Salesforce, is there something that you look back on and you think, oh, I wish we had focused a little bit more on that channel, or I wish that we had kind of doubled down with, that part of the organization? Is there anything that you kind of pick up that we might be able to all take home with us today?
I think one aspect for me has been just how much I didn't know about doing business at global scale, right? So Salesforce is a huge company. Now Slack joined us as well. And I think as a startup entrepreneur, you have to learn a lot of things from the ground up. And my background is comp sci, so I didn't go to business school. But there's a lot of amazing experience out there, and just so much to learn from a company like Salesforce. So just keep learning. It's my motto, and I would encourage everybody to continue to do that, because there's always the next skill that we can all pick up. And never give up. That's an important one as well, because it wasn't obvious for us at Mobify that we'd be one day acquired by Salesforce. It's been some dark days, but we pushed through it, and we ended up being rewarded for it with a great fit and a great market that we're in now.
Wonderful. Yes, I think it's, it's essential that we have these conversations. And once again, I want to thank the team at VEF for pulling everybody together. This is really how we get some of the perspectives and the personalities that can help us make better decisions with the businesses that we're building. These conversations are essential. We might all be a little zoomed out, but thanks again for pulling us together. When we take a look at what's currently happening in the social channel. Monica has a question here. She says, it may be funny, but if we're using Instagram as a shopping platform, are hashtags becoming a big part of reaching out to sell products online as well? Are we using those hashtags and maybe their search and discovery as a way to go figure out how to do a little bit more direct to consumer?
Because I might take this one. Yeah, hashtags are extremely important on Instagram. And no matter what you think, every piece of data we have seen is that the more that you use, the better it is. I think people complain about, like how many are visible, what it looks like. Every data point we've seen says the more you use, the better. The key thing is getting breadth with them, because there's actually organic reach on Facebook does seem to be taking a hit as they kind of transition more to a paid model, especially for business accounts. So making use of hashtags is one of the few remaining ways you can get organic reach for any kind of content that you have on the Instagram platform to get new users. Because there are a lot of us who are really use that Explore tab. You have to give the algorithm something to go on in order to kind of get that interest into its graph.
Got it. I love that answer. And you touched on something that I wanted to dovetail into, and that is the algorithm. We talk about it like it's omnipotent. The bots are out there. They're trying to steal our attention, but they are also, the algorithms are trying to help us find what we want to buy. They're trying to introduce us to new things through discovery. But we're also starting to see, both in the consumer areas as well as the business areas, that the algorithms are helping us buy. They're helping us buy the things that we buy all the time. They're helping some of our purchasing, whether that's subscriptions or whether that is really just automating things like grocery. And so when we look at algorithmic and automation within the e-commerce and retail frame today, I'm wondering what you guys think. Are we going to start to look at that automation as a huge part of what we're buying on a weekly or a monthly basis, or is it going to stay a small sliver? I'll throw this to anybody that wants to take it. Riz, when you think about automation today, are you seeing any orders coming? They may be direct to consumer, or they may be some of the B2B side of things. Are you seeing automated purchasing in Cymax's world at all?
Not as much in our world today, but we definitely use data to drive the business, and we're doing so less on the targeting side. We're using Amazon and Google and Walmart's advertising platforms to try and target, but they do keep their customers very, very private in the sense that they own those customers, so they're not going to share that with their third-party sellers. So we have to get creative in terms of how we get to those customers and how we can reach them after the first sale as well, in order to draw them back to our websites and be able to convert them into our long-term customers, rather than just those one transaction points that are occurring on the marketplaces. So we're using machine learning, automation, AI to actually kind of dig into those types of opportunities and understand how we can get back to those customers, how we can reach out to new ones, what are the opportunities, whether it's something simple as a zip code from where we actually delivered the product and understanding that information, and then extracting external data sources, and bringing that into our own ecosystem and being able to use machine learning again to kind of target, or whether it's just using information like we know you bought a crib, and 2 years from now we know that you're going to buy a kid's bed, and then another few years you're going to buy, you know, your high school bed, and then you're going to buy a university futon, and then you're going to buy your matrimonial bed, right? So we can actually target the consumers in the life cycle using this information. So automation is part of it, definitely. I think machine learning and AI definitely kind of feeds into it a lot more for us at Cymax.
No, it sounds great. Ian, I want to dig into machine learning and some of the data work that you're doing, because I know that's driving a lot of innovation on your side. But Igor, when you look at Commerce Cloud today, where are you seeing AI as really kind of changing the landscape, or, you know, really doing things that you might not have expected to see it do?
Yeah, so for us, personalization is actually one of the pillars of the value of Salesforce Commerce, which is our product. With Einstein, we've been investing in machine learning for a long time. And frankly, most of the products you see when you go to a customer site has probably been touched by machine learning in some way, because it's the best way to drive relevancy for shoppers and to maximize conversion for the brand. So I think as we shop online, I would be willing to bet that probably half of all products we see on these websites is already suggested to us by algorithms, and it's going to go from half to probably 2/3 to eventually close to 100% over time. So it's definitely a key part of the value of our product, and the trend that we see everything moving into really quickly.
Fantastic. I mean, I think that, you know, we need to pay attention to that as we build our retail and our direct consumer companies, is that a company like Salesforce is going to have AI and Einstein as a pillar. So, you know, I think we need to ask ourselves, are there opportunities, or where are the opportunities for us to automate this? You know, there's so many new channels, there's so many new movements around the business landscape. We need some help, and if we can ask the robots to help us, we really, really should. What Ian is doing over at WithLater is building some of these tools like Einstein. Ian, can you tell us a little bit about the data that you're pulling in, which I'm sure with 5 million people on WithLater is pretty substantial, and how are you using that to make people's lives easier when they're using WithLater and when they're using Instagram?
Sure. The two big uses that we have for machine learning right now, one is our best time to post feature, which causes a lot of stress for people who don't want to just post all the time. They might not have enough content to, so they're wondering what time of day is the best time to post. So that's probably one of our most heavily used features within WithLater, because we'll just show it right on your calendar to say, hey, here's when we suspect the best time for you to post is. The other big one we have is our hashtag recommendation tool, just to kind of dovetail into my previous answer. We're actually releasing a new version of it fairly soon to kind of emphasize a new breadth in terms of your hashtags. Because all too often, like if you put hashtag Vancouver, hashtag YVR, you're probably not giving it any new information given how correlated those two hashtags are anyway. But if you're selling kombucha and you do Vancouver and kombucha and other conceptually further away hashtags, you're more likely to get a better spread through the Instagram. So we're releasing a new version of that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, machine learning is only as good as the data going into it and how much you have. Like you can have the best machine learning person who can create whatever algorithm in the world. If they don't have data to back it up, they're not going to get the same results as someone who did machine learning 101 and just has access to way better data. That might be a little extreme in example, but you know, we like to think of ourselves as the second biggest Instagram data set outside of Instagram. But I always say machine learning is often like a hammer looking for a nail. It's a solution to a problem. You have to kind of pair with something that can actually provide value to your customers. So those are the two that we have right now, and we have a few more coming down the pipeline. Ideally, I would love to have a machine learning model where you toss it an image and it'll tell you how many likes it would get, but I'm pretty sure that's a little beyond us right now, or we need more data, or at least $1 million in Amazon Web Services training costs. But yeah, we're always excited for what can be done on that front.
Mm-hmm. When we think about algorithms and our social media platforms, I mean, they become like helpers, right? You know, they're helping us find people that we love. They're helping us find products that we really need. They're also trying to steal our attention. And in between both sides is a lot of possibility. When we look at what's happening in Instagram, we look at what's happening on TikTok, I think, what was the data point this week was that TikTok for the first time has crossed YouTube for the amount of minutes that are being watched per user. And so this is a monumental shift. We've got a social media platform based on video. Ian, what's going on with the TikTok algorithm? Why is it so good?
So to the whole point of the data being the key thing on it, if you think back, for those of you who don't know, TikTok used to be called Musical.ly, then it was acquired by ByteDance. Both were Chinese companies, but ByteDance had a specialization in machine learning, specifically in recommenders. I think where TikTok has a one-up on the other feeds is just the very nature of TikTok gives it feedback about content quite quickly. For anyone who's never been on it, it's not like you scroll, it's more you're given a video and you can watch some amount of it and either go forward, like it, save it, but ultimately you have to engage with the content somehow, even if it's to just get rid of it. So what the TikTok algorithm gets to do is present you with a piece of content to see, hey, do you have any interest in this? And if you watch basically none of it and scrolled away, it knows, okay, I don't have that. Or if you engage with it, you have a positive data piece. Whereas Instagram, you kind of have your people and there's an explore tab, but they're just not going to get the density of data. The brilliance of how TikTok is set up is that every interaction you have is giving that algorithm a little piece of data and it can figure it out. And it can do all those big sparse matrix computations up in the cloud and kind of tell you different areas, oh, people who like this also like this. But they can prompt you with a novel piece of content to see if you have any reaction to it whatsoever. And if you don't, they know not to bother. So it can happen so quickly. Like a lot of people my age are like, why are you on TikTok? And they're all dancing teenagers. And I'm like, well, if it was that, I wouldn't use it. But it knows to just show me a bunch of tech stuff and new parent stuff. And I'll laugh enough at that and I'll engage with that content, or maybe I won't engage, I'll just watch more of it. It just gets every little bit of data out of your interest in a way that just by virtue of the product, Facebook and Instagram cannot.
Right. When I look at TikTok today, the conversation I love having with people is that it's going to disrupt education in a very rich way. So if anybody doesn't have TikTok, hasn't gone through because they're worried that it's teenagers dancing, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. This is going to be a very rich channel in e-commerce and retail. It's also going to change the way that people learn. And so I really want to make sure that people are downloading that and giving it its chance. It's not teenagers dancing, it's whatever you want. And it is changing the way a lot of people are living today. Riz, when we take a look at data and some of what's going on with the TikTok algorithm and how it's predicting what people want to see, how are you seeing similar technologies or similar data management come in and help some of your customers and your partners better predict what products to be manufacturing? Or what products to be, storing on the shelves because we can see better what's coming up front.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great question because that's exactly where we're going, right? So, I'll try and answer this question and the one that came up on, in terms of advice on the question list in terms of what's required to support a company and scale efficiently, because they do kind of go hand in hand. We're an asset-light business, so we really are. The way we describe ourselves, we're at the intersection of technology, e-commerce, and logistics. We don't own product. We take flash title when the product is being sold. So we're a little bit of an upside down model in terms of we sell the product and then we buy it. So we sell the product to a customer first. And once we've sold it, then we buy it from the manufacturer and send it to them, to the customer for delivery. So it's a bit of a different way of approaching things. So we don't really have to buy inventory and keep it stocked. But what we want to do is make sure that when we are selling things, because a big part of our game is getting what's called the buy box on Amazon or position. So when you hit the buy now button, it's us that you're buying it from instead of a competitor of ours. So there's lots of competition on these marketplaces trying to sell. Same thing really does apply on the websites, but it's a different story in terms of getting them through the funnel into that kind of buy now stage. So to kind of reiterate, we're an asset light business. So really, what does it mean? It's use this technology, use the forecasting, use the machine learning to kind of help now predict where should we help our vendors put their products to, as you called out. So if we're selling 100 desks a day of a certain kind, we want to make sure that we're using the data that we've gathered to understand where are those desks going to be sold. Are they going to be sold on the East Coast, West Coast, Central, wherever they may be? And we want to help them understand that they should be moving that product before it's actually being sold. This is ultimately what Amazon does amazingly well, and how they actually get your product to you in less than a couple hours in lots of cases, because they know before you do that you're going to be ordering those diapers actually in the next few hours. And they want to make sure you can get those diapers in the next few hours as well. So we're trying to take a page out of that book and help our vendors get more predictive in terms of where they're going to be putting their product as it enters to the US. I mean, as you know, the supply chain has been upside down for the last year and a half. It's just getting worse. I would tell everyone to start buying their products now for Christmas if they want to get it in time, just because it's going to get even worse. There's product shortages, raw materials are going up, price increases are hitting everyone. So it's going to get worse before it gets better. The beauty of what we've got is we're very agile and we can move to where the product is available and, make sure that we can supply that demand. So we will continue to remain asset light and focus on being a tech solution to help our vendors move their businesses forward.
Yeah, some of those amazing things to look at, around how the algorithms and the bots and the data machines are coming together to know us better than ourselves sometimes. I wonder what impact that's going to have on the consumer, when we're starting to go down a path of consumption that has really been determined for us. It is a part of the way that we live now as consumers. It's also part of the way that we live as business owners. And if we leverage these channels properly, we're going to be in a place to grow our businesses faster. Igor, when we think about that, being able to crunch a bunch of data and to be able to look forward and predict where the consumer is going to be, are you seeing in Commerce Cloud how we're able to take data from one channel and put into the other? That we can take, let's say, some of our social data and we can help better determine whether we should be buying ads or whether we should be stocking up the marketplace. Any insights there about how we can take data from one channel to another and what's happening on your side?
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the hot segments right now in technology and in the SaaS space in general. It's a new category of products called CDPs, which stands for Customer Data Platform. So it's exactly that kind of product you can buy to stitch together the shopper journey between web, apps, social channels, and keep it all in one spot. Kind of like how Salesforce invented CRM 20 years ago. Now you have CRM for shopping, which is the CDP, without using too many acronyms. But it's now possible. That's the most important part. As Ian mentioned, there is kind of this motion around who gets to control and own the data. So you see like these big companies get closer to each other, but then break up because they don't want to share the data between marketing and commerce parts. So it's a very active space. But I think we'll see more and more innovation in how marketers can reach audiences as well, because I think we're all tired from seeing emails every day from brands without good targeting. And I think it's going to get a lot more refined, maybe get smart and truly multi-channel between push messaging and in-app, in-web messaging and email. So I think it's also going to get redefined over the next few years. So watch this space.
Love it. When when I look at some of the purchasing that happens on channel 1, and then we see what happens on channel 2, it can feel like magic, or like Facebook is listening to us. It's crawling into our dreams. But when I just bought a new TV, when we think about that TV purchase, how are we seeing that impact couch recommendations or speakers? And is that something that we're also seeing come through our social influencers, that we're getting data about what products people are buying? So I throw this to anybody in Riz. Are you seeing how one product is leading to the purchase or the recommendation of others? And if that's happening, maybe even across different companies or different influencers?
Well, if you think about it, anytime you search for something, you're going to get retargeted for anything. So once you've do a properly attributed purchase through some social channel, you're going to see nothing but that for a little while. One of the things I've always wished with advertising is I wish I had an option of like, I already bought this thing, because all too often retargeting is going to do that for you. You're going to see all kinds of things. We're traveling tomorrow. Just today, my wife was Googling about luggage, and within about 30 seconds, I saw ads on Instagram for it. So obviously this is going to be how things are going, because once you've signaled an intent, then you can kind of get that Google level of targeting for ads. They know you're in the market for something. Let's show nothing but ads. They've found other ways of doing intent that previously only Google had the ability to.
Ian is going to Puerto Rico. Better get him a new Speedo. We are at about 5:15 here. We got 15 minutes left for Q&A. And so I really want to ask our group here anything that's running around your imagination that we throw to the group. We've got a great question here from Mary. And I think that Igor probably has been dealing a lot with third-party cookies, right? Over the last decade, and how that impacts how things are working in mobile e-commerce. How's the demise of third-party cookies going to affect the future of retail, and how that's going to impact things like advertising? Are we going to do, less or more online as a result of not being able to track the fact that we're flying to Puerto Rico next Tuesday?
I think, frankly, that it's just changing who we pay for the ads, because maybe there's less ability to retarget, as Ian mentioned, because you can't use cookies, but there's different workarounds we've seen vendors invest in. And ultimately, like, even if Apple stops third-party tracking, they'll just offer you their own ads, right, for similar categories. I think it's more like a internal strife within the ad industry, but it's not changing the fact that we're going to see digital ads. Hopefully they're more tailored to what we actually need.
Right. Riz, are you seeing any impact from third-party cookies impacting your marketplaces?
No, not right now. I think, other than signing our lives away with some of the requirements there, we're not really seeing any impact. It's, their platforms are just getting stronger. They're continuing to invest millions of dollars into, the Amazon marketing platforms. I think it's what Igor said. It's really a land grab, and it's an internal kind of fight between it, within the advertising world. So you're going to see more and more marketplaces trying to generate their own marketing capabilities and technologies, and you're seeing that with eBay doubling down there now. So it's just a matter of time before they have their own, and I think that world is all going to evolve. It'd be interesting to see kind of who comes out on top, and how it all comes together. I think Google's got an interesting plan ahead of them in terms of what they're planning to do, and they've got a lot of data, and I think it's about just activating some of that, and I think that could create a lot of pressure on some of the other advertisers, but it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds over the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're also just going to see, like, there is also a technology arms race that is happening. Third-party client cookies turn into first-party server-to-server cookies so easily. So there's too much money at stake for people like Google and Facebook to be like, well, we can't do cookies. There's no other options. That is not the beginning end of how you can be tracked online. And when there's enough billions at stake, they will find a way. When you look at like Google Tag Manager, moving to server side, there are technology solutions to this problem. Everyone will have to adapt, and then we'll have, like, privacy is going to be an ongoing game.
We have a question from Julia, who asks, Ian, when looking to connect with an audience through video content, when would you recommend YouTube, and when would you recommend TikTok, and how we're starting to delineate our strategy around using video for our marketing purposes?
TikTok is very much long form content, and longer lived for that matter. TikTok, everything on there is no more than a week old. If you have an existing following and you want to kind of keep it, you can do that on YouTube a lot better. The interesting thing about TikTok is the inherent chaos in the platform, where you can have a big following and it doesn't guarantee you a lot of views on whatever you have. Whereas on YouTube, if you have a big following, you can get going. The flip side of that is it's a lot easier to get started on TikTok. You can have virtually no following, and if something, piece of content resonates with people, it can go big. And if you've ever tried making content on TikTok, you'll be amazed at what goes big and what doesn't, the inherent randomness of it. Whereas on YouTube, you're actually going to get better Google. You can think about, like, am I making a piece of content that someone is searching for? TikTok, no one's searching necessarily for content the same way. It's more showing based on interests, and you're putting a lot more faith in the algorithms. Whereas with YouTube, you're getting measured on how long the watch for something is, where, like, you want it to be at least 10 minutes of content. Whereas on TikTok, I know the new cap is like 3 minutes, but I don't have the attention span for more than 60 seconds when I'm on that platform. So.
Wonderful. Riz, are you seeing video? Are people buying furniture and home decor with video now? Is that an emerging channel and something that you think people should look more into?
Absolutely, it is. Again, content and differentiation there is absolutely key. I think lifestyle imagery and video content is what's going to start to separate them or set them apart. I think the furniture industry is probably lagging in terms of some, compared to some of the other industries. So, I think it's a matter of us catching up. But definitely video, we're seeing more and more vendors jump into that game, putting more effort into that kind of production. So it's helping. We see conversion and interest, spike on those types of products, and we expect that to become more apparent in the furniture industry as we move forward.
Igor, when we look at video and how it relates to Commerce Cloud, is that really just a way to get eyeballs to a website to convert? Or are we starting to see video solutions where we're able to convert within the video? How's video working within e-commerce today?
I think there's different flavors of how to do it, and it varies in different regions. So we've seen examples where it's purely for talking about a product, but then you go to a website to convert. But more and more, we're seeing that conversion happens in the video itself, with up to 60% higher rates than before. So we had a customer in Brazil, a body shop, that launched an event on Instagram, and they had 2 influencers that ran the event, and you could buy the product right there. And yeah, much higher rates than they saw on the website without the campaign. It's also easier and easier to do it. It took them 3 weeks to do the whole project for Black Friday. So it's more and more approachable, I think, for a lot of brands to try it out because of how easy these platforms are making it to create video commerce experiences. And then in China, there's also a trend around group shopping, where it's not just you watching the video, it's your friends too, and you can together bid on products or groups of products. So there's so much innovation around how to pay as well, and how to work with your friends to get a better deal. So it's evolving all the time.
When we think about, you brought up an interesting point there, is just combining influencers and video. It actually supplies us with new opportunities. If there's no influencer, we expect everything to be, a 4K production because we're really expecting a lot of polish to it. If there's an influencer in there, we might expect a higher level of authenticity. Somebody's hanging out in their boxers in their living room. And so we have different expectations about who's in the video. Valli's got a great question here. Just plug it again. Please make sure tonight you have yourself a plenty of hard kombucha. Valli wants to know, is influencer advertising more effective than regular digital advertising on IG? And if so, why? Why are influencers so important relative to this polished marketing that we're producing?
Well, first of all, I don't think we have influencers that are in their boxers on the couch, because if they were, everyone would take that job. That sounds pretty sweet if I can just influence from the waist up, online. But I got enough actually take issue. A lot of influencers put a lot of effort into their videos, and that's how they get there, having high quality videos. If we talk about the 4K production, everyone who bought a phone in the last year has a 4K filming device in their pocket. The barriers to entry to making very high quality videos are particularly low. In terms of whether it's more effective than digital advertising, I think the jury is out on that one. And part of it is that I think a lot of marketers has been spoiled with digital advertising. Remember that old saying, I know half of my advertising budget is useless, but I don't know which half. Digital marketing and pay through kind of lets you knew what it was, and we got so targeted and efficient that when we have influencer campaigns, which aren't always easy to do proper attribution, we have the discount code, and that helps, but it's never going to give you kind of every little piece. Like, you might have initially heard something from an influencer, and I think we all want to attribute it, but your customer does not care about attributing their purchase. That is not their interest. That is a marketer problem. So we can do various things, but it's hard to make a comparison between the two, because digital advertising, if you have everything set up correctly, you'll know your ROI. With, influencers, something might blow up that they make and make it even bigger, and it's hard to actually measure from a cultural perspective. But in terms of sales, like, really they can only do links and discount codes. Beyond that, it's going to be a tricky one to understand. So I think that's where we see actually a lot of influencers run fairly cheap. One of the things that we've actually found is that you're better off getting a bunch of smaller influencers rather than one larger one, because as someone's following on Instagram gets bigger, their relative engagement starts to go down quite a bit. So someone with 400 or 500,000 followers isn't going to be as good as the sum of all the other followers from maybe like 50 smaller ones. It's going to be a pain to manage 50 smaller ones, that's for damn sure. But their smaller influencers' engagement is going to be a lot higher per capita than that of a larger influencer. So long story short, don't go thinking giving money to Kardashians to promote something is always going to be a good idea.
All right. Thank you, everybody that has joined us today. We've got a couple minutes left, just 3 minutes left before we jump into virtual networking. Riz, I want to just take that question around influencers and the impact on some of the advertising and look at the Cymax world. Which marketplaces within Cymax are doing the best, and are they the ones that are engaging with influencers more and more? Are you seeing any trends there that we should pay attention to?
No, I'm not. In terms of marketplaces, I'm not seeing that happening yet, especially more specifically in the furniture space. But Wayfair, sorry, is absolutely doing a really great job of that. You see that through their advertising here in Canada and the US. So they're definitely picking up on that, and I think they've done an amazing job over the years of building up their brand, and now they're leveraging that through these influencers and getting that extra reach. So something we aspire to in the future as we move forward as well. But we haven't seen it on the marketplaces yet, and that'll be an interesting place to watch for it.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of interesting trends. We have seen this 10 years of transformation within retail and e-commerce over the last 18 months. And it's a really exciting time to be within the space, to be building a business, and also to be within the Vancouver technology community. I just want to thank our panel today. Again, Igor from Salesforce, Ian from WithLater, and Riz from Cymax. Please go check these wonderful companies out. Go to later.com and check out LaterCon, which is coming. You can learn more about what's happening in the world of Instagram and social media. This is going to conclude the panel. My name again is James Basnett. I'm the CEO at Shape, really focusing on augmented reality and NFTs and how we can make virtual shopping experiences really fun. Scott, I want to throw it back to you. If anybody's got links, you can drop it into the chat. But Scott, thank you for having me and the rest of the panel today. Thank you to the VF team, and looking forward to the rest of the virtual networking.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, James. That was great. Really rich discussion. Super interesting. I would just want to thank everyone for joining us online today. Thank you, New Ventures BC, for running the event. Thank you to the panelists, Igor, Ian, and Riz, for donating their valuable time. Big thanks to you for moderating the discussion, and thank you all for joining. Before we move to the virtual networking portion, we'll just kind of plug our next event in October. It's going to be on October 19th. Clean tech focus. The title is Clean Growth Stories, Lessons from the Leaders Capturing the Climate Opportunity. So what kind of innovations being done around clean tech? Be a really interesting discussion. So that's going to be on October 19th. Now, we'll now kind of move everyone into breakout rooms for the remainder of the event. You can kind of choose which room you want to join. You can move between rooms. We'll have our panelists kind of leading each room, if you will. So if you wanted to make a direct connection with someone, please join the room, and please feel free to kind of move around to more than one rooms. I'll hand it over to Angie and Liz to kind of manage that, setting up those breakout rooms. Liz and Angie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, we're here. So Liz is going to open the rooms for those who would like to stick around. Just a reminder, you'll be randomly put into a room, but you do have the option to move. So we've got some instructions on the screen, but basically if you go to the breakout room button on the bottom of Zoom, and you kind of mouse over the room number on the right-hand side, then you'll have the option to move rooms or join a different room. So that's kind of the key to switching rooms if you want. Otherwise, we'll leave them open and we'll close the rooms just a little bit before 6 and have fun.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Hope we see you at the next event in October.